Aloha and welcome back to the Kupuna Connections television series. I'm Colin Hayashida with St. Francis Healthcare System of Hawaii. And today we have a very unusual topic about happiness. Happiness You with Alice Inoue. And Alice, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Alice, perhaps you can share a little bit about who you are first of all.
So first of all, what I do is I help people with mindset. And my company is called Happiness You, and what we do is help people to have happier lives. Doesn't matter if you're young or old, we all want a life where we can feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have that little logo there.
Yes, our logo, the U stands for you, as in Y-O-U, also is university, because we offer a variety of classes and concepts and just different things to help you look at life differently, because we all know that how you look at things make a difference.
So you talk about what it is that makes people happier. What makes people happy?
So I believe that when we are connected to a greater purpose, that we are inspired to get up and live our lives. And I think when we start to lose meaning, like we get caught up in the rat race, we caught up in things that are not important, meaning like things that we think are important but aren't important, that start to stress us out a lot. I think we start to lose that sense of fulfillment. So the way that I look at things and the way we look at things at our school, our philosophy is that we have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of ourselves. So on the physical level, that's the side of what are you sleeping well, are you eating well, how is your body, how is your health? But that's not everything. We also have this emotional side, like how are you feeling? If you're not feeling good, you're probably not going to be as motivated. And then mentally, are you learning, are you growing, are you stressed out, are you distracted, like what's going on mentally? And then spiritually, like I said, are you fulfilled in your life?
Okay. Now you have a photo here that you wanted to share.
Okay, so this photo is just books that I've written. So over the years, I've just found that sometimes just taking the words and the concepts that I talk about and putting into books help people. So I write books, and they're usually books on life wisdom and life growth and happiness. I also do a lot of talks and presentations. So in addition to people coming to our school and learning or going online and taking classes, then I do various talks to really help people to shift their mindset into one of that which is possible versus what's not possible in their life. And some of the pictures you're looking at are just various talks that I do that I've done around town, yes.
Okay. Now, it's not always the case, but oftentimes we do see older adults who are today lonely, bored, sometimes depressed as a result, and depression, of course, is a major concern among older adults. What's your take on that situation?
I think that we live kind of in an age or a matrix of thought that we all get caught into, that aging is a bad thing, that the older we get, you start going downhill from here. You look at the Hallmark cards, the parties, it's just like, oh, once you retire, he's over the hill. So you start to get this idea that as you get old, you have to get sick. As you get old, you got to start taking medication. As you get old, you're going to have to start doing all these things that old people do. And that mindset is really prevalent no matter where you look.
And you got to act your age as an old
person.
Right,
and oh my gosh, dress your age, be your age. And it's just so...
You're out to pasture.
Right. There's so many things that just support aging being a bad thing. And, that's depressing if you think that you're nearing the end all the time, that, just because you're not working, now you're not valuable, or just because you're a certain age that now you need to retreat or retire. So I think that what was really neat was in prior to 2008, most of the studies that were done on depression. Why are people depressed? How much medications do they take? And then someone came up with the idea like, hey, why don't we study happiness? Like, why are people happy? What makes people happy? And so what they come to find is that there are certain things that no matter what age you are, you can move towards a state of joy. And the less challenged you are in your mind, the more you're thinking well about where you are in life, the more of that reality you will create. So I think that why are people depressed? Because there's a mindset around being old means that it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult. And there's not enough role models to really show what healthy aging can be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very intrigued with this whole concept of active aging, and this is why this particular program has pivoted in that direction. So sometimes we talk about positive aging, successful aging, vital aging, healthy aging, and this is different from looking at aging as sick care, right? As you point out, or geriatric pathology, and that sort of thing. But it seems to me that it's maybe this is what people are really looking at is happiness, right? But at the same time, as you point out, people do as they age do experience chronic disability.
Yes.
So how does that how do you
How does it work?
Yeah,
how does it
how do
work
you
if
recognize
you've got like all these things going on and you're like, the reality is I am aging and I don't feel good. And so what happens is we will tend to focus on what's not working. That's natural. That's human nature. We are negative by nature. We look for what's wrong. We're always like, it goes back to our DNA, like our caveman days. Like if we didn't look for what's negative, we wouldn't even survive. So it's built in to be negative. So if something is painful or something isn't good, we're just going to keep focusing on that. And the way our mind works is the more we focus on it, the more of the reality that is, and the more of consuming that becomes of our life. So what I truly not only just believe, but what we know to be true through all the science that's been shown, that if you focus on what is good, so you could say I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I have 10 things that are wrong in my life that aren't working. I don't have this, I don't have mobility, I'm in pain, I don't have money, whatever. But if you take a moment and you look beneath that, there are things that are good. There are things like, okay, so your right foot doesn't work, but does your left foot work? I know that sounds weird, but we are so set on wanting everything to be perfect. We have this unrealistic fantasy of how we should be, and when we don't meet that fantasy, we get depressed. So the whole idea is just like, what do? You just start with one thing. What do you focus on? What can you do? What is good? You focus on a little bit of light, and that light will bring more light, and that will start to create a new reality. If you're just focusing on the darkness all the time, you're going to feel pretty dark, pretty depressed, and feel like no one's there to support you. So it's shifting your focus. And it's hard. Nobody wants to. We just want life to get better.
So it's positive, this positivity as you talk about
it's
versus
positivity, but yet it's not fantasy thinking. It's acknowledging that life is hard, acknowledging that, yes, this is the reality of my situation. However, there is also this, there is also this. So it's adding positive to whatever your mindset is about the existing. A lot of people just think, oh, that's just fairy dust thinking. I can't just think positive because look at all these things that are going on that are negative. And I'm saying, yes, these things going on are negative, but the only way you're going to find balance is if we start to force ourselves to get out, force ourselves to look, till eventually that becomes a part of the reality that you see.
Some people will say, well, if I lose weight, I'll be happy.
Oh, geez, how many times have I heard that? I know someone who's been saying that forever. I'm just trying to lose weight. And I said, finally, I get tired. I said, I can't wait for you to lose 20 pounds. And they're shocked because normally I'm like, you're fine the way you are.
And then I'll be happy or something.
And then I say to them, can't wait till you lose because I'm going to like you so much better. I'm going to love you more because you're going to be thinner. I mean, the mindset that we have, when I get more money, I'll be happy. But what people don't understand, which is where everybody messes up on this whole thing, is when I get more money, I'll be happier. Yeah, maybe. But when you get more money, you're also going to have an equal amount of challenges to match that new level of happiness. I ask people all the time, what's a negative about having more money? None. Money means more travel. This negative, what's a negative? You're going to have to say no to people, and they're going to think you're not very nice. You're going to say yes, and you're going to resent for them for how they spend their money. I mean, there are challenges that come with having more money, but
more taxes, too.
Right, more taxes. There's so many things. So it's like, let me just bring this up. It's so, if someone says, oh, if only I had better health, I'd be happier. Okay, so if you say that, I'll say, well, what are the advantages of having a sore hip? What are the advantages? No advantages. It's painful. But have you noticed that people check in with you more? Your children come by more. The sicker you are, the more people give you attention. So there's advantages to not feeling well. There's advantages to feeling better and disadvantages. So what happens is people get stuck in a mindset that this is good, that is bad. The more inflexible we are in our thinking, the harder it is to be happy.
So, how would you approach life then? I mean, what do you give me your thoughts?
How would I
that?
approach?
I mean,
yeah, no, I get it. No,
is,
so what we have at our school, we have a manifesto. I have guiding principles that we have created that help us to live life in a healthy way. And for example, our first guiding principle is nothing happens to me. Everything happens for me. So why did this happen to me? We change it to how did this happen for me? Why did I get sick? Why did this happen to me? Poor me. We change it to how am I learning from this? How did it happen for me? Am I learning to take better care of myself? Does this mean that I need to research some more? There are good things that happen from seemingly negative events. So we have a manifesto that we can put the picture up. And it's all really about, you read some of these.
What are we seeing here?
Your life has a purpose and you are here for a reason. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or you're 80. If you still are alive, you still have life to live. So let's try to figure out what your purpose is. What gets you up in the morning? What makes you happy? You have so much wisdom. How can you share that with others? No matter how you look, think, or feel, you're perfect in any way, every way. We think we should be this or we should be that. So it's just, these are just a bunch of approaches to life that we feel help us to live balanced, happy lives. And this one here, the more you focus on your own life, the easier your life becomes. Does that make sense to you? It's like, well, you should do this, you should do that. Why are you spending your money that way? Why don't you do this? Like, the older we get, the more we think we know, the more we think we should tell other people what to do, and the unhappier we get when they don't meet our expectations. So it's just sort of reminding ourselves that, hey, focus on you. What do you need? What is your fulfillment? And that's our approach. That's what I like to do.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, the last one kind of reminds me of how my...
Yes. The last one. You are responsible for your own happiness. And I say, you are the only one that you are going to live with for the rest of your life. People can come and go, friends, family, pets, but you are responsible. Nobody can make you happy. Nobody can blow enough like fairy dust in your face to make you happy. You have to be the one to say, hey, I don't feel good. How can I make a difference in my life? And sometimes it's about helping others, but it all comes down to you are responsible. It doesn't matter what health ailments you have, what challenges you have, you're still responsible. And that's empowering to know that you can make a difference. You can make a difference by how you look at something. And if we're stubborn and say, no, I just want life to get better, guess what? It's just not going to get better. If you're going to wait for people to prop you up, it's not going to happen. But if you're open to saying, I want a better life, you are going to be able to create that. And I love what you're doing. You're creating platforms and ways for people to say, I want to feel better. How can I do this? And here are different ways.
Now, this is something that I've shared with others in other interviews, but I thought I'd share this with you as well. You know, my father, who passed away some time ago, once told me, Cullen,
Yes.
two things I want to have you remember. One is always say thank you, you know, person above or person below. And the other one was make people happy. That's what he said, you know. And by making people happy, you know, it comes back to you as well.
Have you noticed, if you're going through a personal challenge and I look sad and I come to you and you say, what's wrong? And I say, oh, this is hard. And you reach out and you give me some advice, you forget about your own problems.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
And you help someone else.
Yeah. Now, this positive thinking, is there any proof to this in the scientific literature?
Oh, yeah. You know what I think was really neat is Time Magazine did an article on this, and it's something called the nun study. And I'll give you, here it says, believe it or not, this 91-year-old nun can help you beat Alzheimer's. So in a very brief, let me just talk about this nun study. It's interesting. What they did was they studied over a 60 to 70 year period these nuns who all basically ate kind of the same food. They were kind of pure of, no drinking, no drugs, no sex.
Right.
They kind of had this. And so when they first entered, they would have to write these diaries, basically. So they had like 60 to 70 years of these diaries, and then the scientists came. They had about 180 of these samples, and they analyzed it as to optimistic, positive thoughts, neutral thoughts, negative thoughts. And the bottom line, what came out of this study was your happiness and your positivity is linked to your longevity. So for every 1% that the nun was more positive, her mortality rate decreased by 1.5%. So in other words, the happy nuns outlived the unhappy nuns by 10 years. So it was such a groundbreaking study because no one had ever really connected your mindset to your longevity and your happiness. And so when I found this study, I just thought I really wanted to especially share it with you and your viewers. I mean, some of the stats, it's very interesting. Yeah, the happiest nuns lived 10 years longer than the least happy nuns. And there's so many stats on it, but the bottom line is that what you talk about, what you think, because they're journaling, and the more negative and the more complaining you are, the less longer you live. Because I think it's just like as our life dims, the light just kind of goes out. But as we look for the light and the positive, it continues to expand.
Yeah. Well, there are people, of course, that live their lives and do have regrets along the way,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And they do have some things in their lives that bring about, memories of unhappiness.
Yes.
And how do you deal with that this becomes a
know-
reality with most people, I suppose.
Right. So things like regret, resentment. This is what I call baggage that we carry, internal baggage, and baggage ages us, AGE, bag age. The bags that we carry age us. And so regret is something that is very common amongst people that are getting further along in life because they say, oh, if only I had done this, had I gone to college, had I married my high school sweetheart, had I done those things that I wanted to do, oh, I regret I didn't do it when I was younger. But what I always invite people to remember is, well, what did you do? You didn't go on that path, but you went on this path, and what did you learn along the way? So there are whenever you have a regret, it's because you are not seeing the benefit of what you did or didn't do. So whatever you have your regret about, if you look to see what did you do instead, what did you do and not do that, there was a benefit and a gain. Because a regret is just seeing a negative, not seeing the positive of the choice that you did make. It's easy to say, hard to do, but really, when you sit down and you look at the things that you might regret, I could ask you a series of questions, and if you were open to seeing the benefits of what you did do, that would lessen that weight of regret.
Can you give me an example of maybe some, people that where this applied and, in terms of how a positive mindset really made a difference?
Easy. So oftentimes somebody would say, "Oh, I wish I had not gone off to school. I had married my high school sweetheart because right now I don't have anybody, and that was this amazing thing." So what did you do? Oh, I ended up taking a job in another city. So we can start to track. Okay, what did that job give you that brought you joy? What did you get from that? Who did you meet along the way? So when you start to really look at the path that was taken and the benefits that you would not have had you stayed in that town or had you done this, then you start to recognize that every choice you made, even if you judge it to be wrong, was still the right choice for you, and you got what you needed, whether you think so or not. Regret's one of the hardest ones, especially the older you get, the more you tend to regret. But if you look at what you did do by not making that choice, you can start to see the value that you brought to yourself and to others. It's a hard one, but I really do know that you can move through it by appreciating the choices that you did make, not beating yourself up for the choices you didn't make, and making the most of where you are today, because there's so much more life to live. As long as you're alive, you're still here to live and to do something.
I'm also kind of curious about what you had said earlier with regards to purpose. That purpose somehow brings things together in terms of, and it ties in with happiness as well.
It does, you know.
Share what your thoughts are on that.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to shrink. Nobody. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to do less, be less, right? We don't. No matter how, we are intrinsically, our nature is to grow and to be fulfilled. So that whole thing about purpose is, our purposes change through life. Like one might be building a career, then your purpose could be nurturing your family. And so as we go, if we stop looking to see how we are valid, we stop losing our will almost to live. Even if your purpose is to keep a plant alive, that will get someone up in the morning, right? To feed a dog, or to, just doesn't matter what it is. And sometimes people have this idea like, I need to have a big purpose, like save the world or feed the hungry. But your purpose really is to find what fulfills you. And because we're human beings, sometimes it's just, what can I do for other people as well? But we get so caught up in thinking all the negative things about what's not going right in our life that gets clouded over. So I think that when one reaches retirement age, if you have a love of something, great, it's easy. You just transition into doing that. But what if you're someone who really was focused on this, and now all of a sudden there's nothing? It really behooves you to figure out, like, how do I add value to this world? What can I do? And having that purpose.
Sometimes I wonder whether or not we have a lot of older adults. You say, well, you know, when I retire, I'm going to Vegas every week, or I'm going to be golfing, you know, quite frequently. Is that enough to fulfill this concept of purpose, or do you think it has to be bigger than that?
Yeah, you know, and I think it will depend on the individual. Like, I really do. I have a lot of people that I talk to and work with, young and not so young. And some people truly feel fulfilled because they're finding joy in what they're doing. So it's such an individual thing. Somebody could be going to Vegas and playing golf, but just feel empty. Others can be doing it and enjoying the camaraderie with the friends, being out in nature, feeling the grass, like enjoying the people that they travel with. So that in itself can be a purpose. As long as we are growing, as long as we are exercising our mind, as long as we are finding joy and looking forward to something. And that's kind of the key. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
You know?
So after a while, if it does become boring, then you need to kind of repurpose.
Yeah, and sometimes we grow out of that. Sometimes we do feel that, you know, and I think what is the most amazing thing about aging is wisdom, right? I mean, you turn 60, you're actually 20 years old with 40 years of wisdom. So what do you do with that? How do you, and like we were saying earlier, you feel good when you help others. And sometimes people just don't see that they're of value to others. And so it's and sometimes it's the search that's fun. People just want instant, even when we're older, we want instant gratification. What's my purpose? Tell me my purpose. People tell me that a lot. Just tell me what my purpose is and I'll go do it. And yet that's the joy in finding what it is that turns your boat. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And it's that search, you know, and people feel empty or lonely, but it's like, don't give up. Just keep going out and finding and looking like a treasure hunt, you know, and it unveils little by little. It's not just one big purpose. It's multiple ways that we serve a purpose.
Right, right. And so in a sense, having that connection or finding that passion is connected, closely connected to happiness.
Yes, and it's part of the journey. You know, happiness isn't, you're just not born with happiness. There's not like a gene that's like, oh, this person is happy, this person isn't happy. They're going to be, it isn't. Your happiness is up to you. You have to figure out what it is that you want in your life. And if you know that or you're searching for it, life will give you more of it. If you're focused on what your life is not and where the voids are and where the pain is, life will give you more of that. What you focus on will become your reality. And that's one thing that can change your world just by knowing the focus. Can I give you an example?
Sure.
So have you noticed, like if you want to, here, I'll just ask, if you decide that it's time to buy a new car, and let's say you want to buy a blue Honda Civic, you research it, you go to the dealer, you go online and you look. What happens after a while when you're driving around town? What do you notice?
You're looking for other Honda
You
Civics.
see blue Honda Civics. There's another one. There's another one. So if you just say, I want a new car, you're going to see cars everywhere. If you start thinking, I want to have a blue car, you're going to notice all the blue cars. The more specific you are, the more specific life will show you, okay? So in the same way, if you are complaining and noticing all the not so good, life will keep showing you the not so good. If you start to look for what you want, life will show you what you want, and that will become your reality. And as we age, I was talking earlier, this matrix of aging has to be so hard. If you start thinking that way, you are going to draw more hardness into your life.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? Now we're getting quite close to the end here, but if people want more about this and to talk about this, what can you suggest?
Yeah, so just to bring up that book, that the Nun Study, there is a book called Aging. It's called it's by David Snowden, and it's called Aging with Grace, and that's a really good book. Just to because we all need proof. Does it really work? I don't want to spend time and energy on happiness if it's not going to work for me.
Right.
So it's a really good book about understanding how to age gracefully,
Okay.
but also. We have classes and courses, and what we do is just help point in a different direction. For example, we have an 80-year-old that's a part of our community, our Happiness U community, and she said that why she is a member is because whenever she's with her friends, all they're talking about is their aches and pains and who's dying and who's in the hospital and what medications they're taking. And she's actually quite healthy, but she starts finding herself getting scared. Like she doesn't want to, and she's well. Mentally, she's well. So she comes to keep that focus. So it's not necessarily me, but find people that can talk about what's good and what you can do and what you talk about active aging. What is it that you can do, not what is it that you can't do.
Right. Okay. So we've covered so much right now.
A million different things.
Yeah. If you had to leave one recommendation or tip, a life's wisdom for our viewers, what would you tell them?
So I would just say, aging is more about how you feel. Than how you look. And if you tell me I don't feel good, look for what does feel good. Just start somewhere. It's if I asked you, Colin, if you didn't know how many years on Earth you were, if you didn't know that, and you didn't know about the calendar year, and I asked you how old do you feel, what would you say?
50.
Right, 50. Live long enough to have some wisdom, right? But not so. So I really think that if you start to believe that you're old and start to think that you need to act whatever that age is for you, you're going to start feeling that and you're going to start manifesting that. So my thing is, aging is more about how you feel. It's not about how you look. Find ways to feel good and you will feel younger.
Okay, and purpose is a good part of that.
Purpose is huge, yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Alice.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate this whole discussion about happiness, and I'm sure that the community appreciates it as well. So, aloha, and see you again next week.